Hey everyone, today I wanted to go over some interesting news that we have after the Capcom Spotlight, and that is the fact that Capcom decided to, pretty much after the presentation ended, provide a little bit of a survey for players to not only be able to tell them how much they enjoyed the actual presentation itself, regarding pretty much all the games that they showcased, but more importantly, take in player feedback. And this is one of the things that I've always discuss with you guys regarding if you have any sort of complaints, specifically when it comes to Monster Hunter or any of the games Capcom makes. Usually the developers are very good at listening to player feedback. That is how the recent wave of free title updates, specifically when it comes to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, has been kind of like adjusting and targeting specific player requests and player things that they have been asking for to pretty much kind of add into the game. Plenty of the quality of life improvements that we have seen added into Sunbreak as part of the free title updates have been pretty much come directly after these player surveys that are like featured after any sort of digital presentation, which we know we have a digital presentation coming up for the 5th title update next month. So I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below for you guys to check out the Capcom Spotlight viewer survey and basically give Capcom some feedback on not just the presentation itself, but certainly some of those complaints or concerns you might have regarding Sunbreak, specifically when it comes to crossplay and cross saves, which people, I still see them posting, requesting that to be added in, especially now that the PlayStation, Xbox, and PC Windows version of the game is finally set to drop April 28th. And they're still hoping for that to be added in. But at this point in time, it's just kind of like wasted effort. They're not going to add that feature in, either of those features in. But maybe the fact that you can give them player feedback, maybe for the next mainline entry, they could finally listen to player voices. So first and foremost, they just simply ask some basic questions like, what do you think of the Capcom Spotlight? Go ahead and give them good, very good, somewhat bad. I personally thought it was fine. I didn't really find it all that revelatory, but, that was just my personal opinion. They asked, what do you think of the overall length of the program? It was about 24 to 25 minutes long, so no real issues with that whatsoever, at the very least on my end. They ask, after watching the Capcom Spotlight, how much do you want to purchase Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection? Now, this one is interesting for me because I've been covering this game a little bit now. I've made several videos on it, and I'm not necessarily too inclined to buy it at launch, mostly because I buy games physically on my end, and they're asking for $60 for the game, which I think is a little bit steep. Maybe 50 would have made it a little bit better. Certainly 40 probably would have been fine. I'm not one to complain about game prices, but they're asking for a little bit of a lot for this one. So maybe wait for a sale to go down eventually, and of course, maybe pick it up there. But at the very least, if you don't know, all of the 10 games will be available in the cart physically if you're interested in that sort of stuff. So, maybe consider that. They mentioned that after watching the Capcom Spotlight, how much do you want to purchase Xbox, Windows, PlayStation version of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak? Now, this one for me is going to be a no. I'm not really interested in, I really wanted to play the Xbox version of Rise and Sunbreak and kind of start again. But I honestly cannot see myself doing the anomaly investigation grind in another console, much less dedicate that much time to it. I'm already grinding all the way to 200 at the very least if I can before the next update. So on Nintendo Switch, I don't particularly see me doing that again on another console at a later date. This is, I've covered pretty much every version of the game at this point. I certainly played the PC Steam version when it launched. I reviewed Rise and Sunbreak separately on both. I reviewed the PS5 version of Base Rise. I played the Xbox version of Base Rise. But when it comes to this one, I'm just not too sure I'm going to put in that level of dedication to be able to just really get to endgame when it comes to Sunbreak. They ask, after watching the Capcom Spotlight, how much do you want to purchase Ghost Trick? And this one is a pretty easy answer for me because I already ordered the physical version from Japan. Amazon Japan has it for about $45 or so. It comes in an English format as well. So certainly for me, I already answered that question as I already pre-ordered the game. It's not releasing physically in the West, which is another one of those weird Capcom decisions, but it is what it is. They ask, after watching the Capcom Spotlight, how much do you want to purchase Street Fighter 6? And the answer for me for this is pretty much the same as always with every fighting game. Not at launch. Just never buy fighting games at launch because they're just, season passes and all of that. I remember, I forget what version of what game it was. It might have been Tekken 7. I purchased it at launch, enjoyed it. It was fun. But then, so many years later now, it's got so many other characters, so many changes. It's just no real purpose to do that. So just wait maybe for a discounted version and then, pick it up at a later date. They asked the same question regarding Exoprimal, and I got to be honest with you guys. Everything about that game just seems boring to me. Exoprimal to me is just one of those. It's not Pragmata. Pragmata is a game that I think it looks appealing. It looks interesting. Exoprimal for me is just something that I have literally zero interest on. And the story trailer that they showcased didn't really do anything else to kind of get me interested on it as well. They also ask, after watching the Capcom Spotlight, how much do you want to purchase Resident Evil 4 Remake? And this one is pretty easy. I already played the Chainsaw demo. I hope you guys have checked that out as well. It's available on PlayStation 4, 5. I'm sure PlayStation 4 as well. But it's certainly available on PS5, Xbox Series X, S, Xbox One. I'm sure it's PC, Steam as well. Pretty fun game. It's an action Resident Evil game. I know a lot of people say this was the peak of Resident Evil. It was when it was still kind of like very slow and methodical. It's not. It's an action game. It's always been an action game. Even the old GameCube version was an action game. Slower, but it was still an action game. I don't know why people complain about Resident Evil 5 and 6 going full action when pretty much Resident Evil 4 was the beginning of the action Resident Evil series, which I have no issues with. I've loved the original trio, the PlayStation 1, 2, 3 versions of the original games. I also enjoy the middle 4, 5, and 6, which are action based. 7 and 8 are a little bit different. Certainly 8, Village, is very action based, but there's taste in there for everybody, and I have no issues with Resident Evil 4 Remake. Certainly plan to play it. Maybe I'll stream it on Twitch or something, but I'm not crazy about streaming all the time. They ask a couple of questions how to tell them how you learn about the Capcom Spotlight, whether it is through social media, a channel, stuff like that. Please select all the platforms that you have seen info about Capcom Spotlight, even if it was just once. Once again, they're just trying to see if their Twitter or YouTube channels are getting enough information out there for them to know. They also mention what content do you like the most about the Capcom Spotlight. You get to select which game you enjoyed the most. Most likely, the Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak information for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC Windows is the most exciting for some. They also ask how interested would you be if Capcom were to stream programs regularly? Well, they already do that anyways. I feel like they have Capcom Spotlights and Capcom presentations more than probably any other publisher. Probably even Nintendo for sure, since Nintendo has a Direct almost like every other, every other year almost, it feels like. There are just not that many Nintendo Directs anymore. So Capcom feels like they're doing a digital presentation almost all the time. They asked, please select the Capcom programs you viewed in the past. They asked the Capcom Showcase, Resident Evil, Monster Hunter Specials, etc., etc. And then the last question they asked, please select all the Capcom brands and series that you like. Of course, you can fill in whichever ones you want. Ghost Trick, certainly happy to see that there. And Dragon's Dogma as well. People are hoping to see more about that game whenever it's set to release. And then the last question, of course, they asked, please tell us any opinions or requests you have regarding the Capcom Spotlight. And I think this is where a lot of players can actually fill in and tell them exactly what it is that you want. Not only specifically about the presentation itself, but of course about any one particular game. And in this case, Monster Hunter. Just tell them, hey, we want cross-play. We want cross-saves. Maybe not specifically for Sunbreak, maybe not specifically for Rise, but just the fact that we need these features added into the franchise. Forget just a singular game. The franchise would go a long way. So that's about all the information that I wanted to cover. Once again, link in the description below for the official Capcom survey. Fill it out. Let them know what you think. You do need a Capcom ID account. They are really pushing that entire Capcom ID thing. Even in the presentation itself, they specifically mentioned that they are going to, I guess, for what games did they mention? I think Exoprimal. They mentioned Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6. You need to log in to the Capcom ID to be able to have access to online for Street Fighter 6 or some weird nonsense like that, which is just really weird to even see. So certainly they're pushing this Capcom ID thing. Let me put it this way. It was the first time that I got to consider that maybe they would consider cross-playing and cross-saves tied specifically to your Capcom ID if you link up your PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Windows, maybe even Nintendo Switch accounts, whatever, and then you can migrate your save over from one to another. Maybe this was the first time that I got like that sense of it, only because they were like so pushy about the Capcom ID thing in that presentation. So maybe, that is something that we can expect in the future, but I don't particularly know. They haven't really told us anything about that. If you're brand new to my channel, though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.